the FBI has been political for its entire history. You can go back to the Nixon relationship with J. Edgar Hoover and, follow it all the way to the current period, really. So one thing that it does is fan the flames of fear against, you have to have, of course, an enemy to have an apparatus to deal with the enemy. You have the prison industrial complex and the military industrial complex here. Press TV just reported, as a matter of fact, that the U.S. military is the largest employer in the world. In order to do those things, you have to have someone that they're aimed at. And in order to do that, you have to have people afraid of someone. Well, the Muslims are the ones that replaced the communists in the American fable of fear. And so the FBI, by targeting people, essentially fans the flame. And so the political objective of justifying the military and prison industrial complexes is helped by their doing this. The reason that it's Muslims is basically the oil resources that are in the Middle East, the legacy of the geopolitical situation against the Soviet Union in terms of trying to put opposition forces at its southern border, and also the connections that were made between U.S. intelligence services and the governments that were installed in various Arab and Southwest Asian countries in the period post-war, post-World War II, and during the Cold War and afterwards. The placement of Israel into the middle of all these Muslim countries after World War II also required essentially a raison to defend, quote-unquote, that installation. And so, there's a number of different forces that converge. They need an enemy. That's, those reasons are really why Muslims are the enemy of the day. I mean, you have to look at the concept of a cult in Western vernacular, and it originally just meant a religious practice in a generic term, and so it was applied to Jesus and Muhammad and everyone else that were leaders of religious movements. In the earlier part of the last century, a pejorative aspect to the word came into the into the definition, and particularly since the 1980s, there was the anti-cult movements that treated various religious groupings as being exploitative or authoritarian, and so it's a slander carrying those those colors, basically, when it's hurled at Muslims and against Islam and against Muhammad. The reasoning for it is that the powers that be in the West have the need for an other, an enemy, and interestingly, they had used Christianity as a rallying point for the forces of the right in the late 70s and through the 1980s and early 90s. And so there was a need for religious juxtapositioning also. And Muslims are a very large group and many Muslims happen to occupy some real estate that is very valuable to the Western powers, the oil of the Middle East, North Africa, Southwest Asia. And so, those things and the legacy of the anti-Soviet activities that were taking place in, like, Afghanistan, for example, in the Cold War period, all sort of combine to provide the food that's needed for the U.S. military and the U.S. prison industrial complexes. They would defame Jesus if it were in their interest, or they would defame John Kennedy or whomever if it were in their interest. He's just the target because that's where a number of different trends intersect, and it's convenient for them right now.